Okay, now we go for a slightly interesting one, the thermometer. So thermometer, from your childhood memory, when you get sick, you kind of get a thermometer, and then there's a bulb. This thing here is called bulb, and inside there there's a thin little tiny tube. We call this capillary. This thing. We call this capillary tube. And then, yeah, basically you just need to know these two things. And then inside this particular capillary tube, let's zoom it in. Ta-da! So this is a small capillary tube. Inside it, you can kind of find something that is like a liquid form. So basically, most good thermometer, they have this liquid called mercury. Mercury is a form of metal. If you learn in your chemistry, if you pay attention to your chemistry, it's kind of like a metal in the form of liquid. So all you need to remember in SPM, what are good and what are bad thermometer. So good thermometer, they need to have small capillary tube. You see, when the capillary tube, as well, this we cover in chapter 1, when the capillary tube is big, the mercury, when it comes in contact with heat, the bulb here comes in contact with the heat, it just raises a little bit. You only see a little bit of change compared to the thermometer here. Actually, this should be inverted. This thermometer here, this thermometer here, where the thermometer is that big and the capillary tube is this small. When you have this mercury here, I put the bulb in contact with some heat object, it suddenly stoned. The changes is a lot more bigger. When the changes is a lot more bigger, we say this thermometer is sensitive and we can see the value change easily. So, yep, we call this thermometer as a good one because it is very sensitive. Now moving on to the next thing is like the bulb at the bottom. So this bulb right here, my beautiful drawing. So this bulb right here is like, inside the bulb is actually the mercury. So this bulb, when the wall of the bulb is very thin, the mercury is very thick. Let's start with the thick one first. It's very thick. The heat, it really takes some time for the heat to go through the wall and finally reach the mercury, right? Well, if we compare the other one with a mercury with a really thin wall, so yep, here is our mercury inside here. Well, the mercury, okay, then the heat just go through a little bit of wall. So this one will actually reacts to the changes faster because it can get the heat to really go through inside very quick, while this one, yeah, it's just very bottom here. It takes some time for the heat to reach the mercury and takes some time for it to expand. So we say good mercury has thin bulb wall. Then next up, well, we kind of want to figure out what kind of liquid that are good. So we compare two things right here. First thing, we compare mercury. Second thing, we compare a colored liquid. Now you have to remember that both of them are liquid and both of them can expand. So we try to compare this one. You see, for mercury, basically mercury is a good liquid for thermometer because firstly, it is a good conductor. It is a metal, good conductor, you can't deny that. The next thing, it expands uniformly. Well, we have learned that metal kind of absorb heat and expand uniformly. Just remember the term uniformly, then you kind of get a uniform expansion based on the heat. Next up, we have the boiling point. You see, the problem with liquid is they are not metal, they have a low boiling point. So when you kind of put it into a boiling water, the liquid, if the boiling point is low, it starts to boil. So we don't want this to happen. When it boils, it becomes gas in your thermometer and you see nothing. So this is why we say mercury is a good liquid for thermometer because it has high boiling point. And lastly, the problem with liquid is like it is sort of transparent. You can't see it that well. You use colored liquid, but you still feel like it's not that clear compared to mercury, which is completely opaque, which means, yeah, it is totally not transparent and you can see it like a solid object. The color, yep, it is a liquid, but you can't see the color of solid object. Yes, that's all you need to remember. Do a short recap. Mercury is a good conductor, expands uniformly, it has a high boiling point, it is opaque, and yeah. So, and then we have to talk about a good thermometer is when you want it to be sensitive. When you want it to be sensitive, you need to have a small capillary tube and it needs to have a thin bulb wall. Okay, there we go. Hope you have a good day.